connectedness was not in my dominant themes. And then when I took it again in 2018, connectedness jumped to number 3, totally relevant to my journey from corporate management consultant into self-employment, my desire to have an impact in the world, my belief that we all have a unique place in the universe and we're meant to play a role. My philosophy about life became clearer when I left corporate and started my own practice. The move of connectedness in my theme sequence was a reflection of that.
Hello and welcome back to Coach to Coach. Today I have Claudia and Chris with me, and we are talking about the strength of connectedness. And as we get going, as always, I get to introduce our guests. They're going to tell us their top 5, where they're from, and how they relate to this strength. From there, we're going to take a deep dive, and we're going to learn about the nuances of this strength through 2 global experts in the StrengthsFinder Clifton Strengths paradigm. And we're going to hear how they relate to each other's top 5s, and we're going to hear just variants and differences. Now, this particular strength is wider and deeper than them all. This one has so much depth, so many different ways you can look at it, that I am thrilled to get started. So, Christopher, I'm going to come to you first. And if you wouldn't mind giving us your top 5, where you're coming in from today, because you might be setting a record for where you're coming in from today, and just, how you relate to this strength.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan. So my top 5 are maximizer, learner, connectedness, input, and woo. And my connectedness, I often describe connectedness as both spiritual and practical. And the spiritual side of my connectedness is I love synchronicities. I believe everything definitely happens for a reason. There is no such thing as a coincidence. And it just resonates deeply for me on a spiritual level. And practically, I'm pretty good at spotting why 2 people should meet, who should meet who, why individuals on the other side of the world are connected to each other and deserve to connect on a platform and get to know each other. I am in Wellington, New Zealand, so I'm quite far away. I've been living here for the last 18 years.
I love that. And Christopher and I have met and known each other now going on 5-10 years? Where are we at, Christopher?
Yeah, I'm going to say 8-ish. 8 or 9.
8-ish, yeah. And so your journey started not in New Zealand, if you don't mind just the journey you've taken.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Canada. I graduated from university in Canada, and then I moved to the UK, and I had a 12-year pharmaceutical management career before training as a coach, moved to New Zealand, trained as a business coach, then joined Gallup, was with Gallup for 7 years, and I'm now running my own coaching and mentoring practice out of Wellington.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Claudia, your turn.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So top 5, where you're coming to us from, and then tell us about your connectedness.
Yeah, so my top 5 are connectedness, maximizer, achiever, learner, and responsibility.
So we have the benefit of some similar strengths for you two and some differences. This is going to be fun. And Claudia, where are you from today?
So I am calling from Providence, Rhode Island, the smallest state in the Union, but I am originally from Colombia.
Excellent. And was it Colombia to Rhode Island or Colombia to somewhere to Rhode Island?
No, I lived most of my life in a little town called Quindío, which is the smallest department in Quindío, and I landed here, to Little Roddy. So
that feels very appropriate. You went from one. Okay, please tell us about your connectedness.
Yeah, so for me, it has a very spiritual connotation as well. I know that's not the case for everyone with connectedness, but I have this faith, trust, and that everything happened for a reason. And I always want to be part of something bigger than myself. In every single job, in every single organization that I have been involved, I want to serve something bigger than just us. It has to be a focus on community impact or the work that we do with the strengths, right? We're transforming individuals and the way that people relate to each other. So that has always been very important to me. It is my favorite strength because my achiever and maximizer get me in trouble sometimes. So I can always relate to my connectedness to ground me, right? And center me. And as part of my value system, I have taken the assessment a couple of times, and that has always been steady number one.
I love it. Thank you both. I think we have to start down the path of the spiritual side first because you both called it out. And from what I understand, and Christopher, you might know this more than I, when Gallup first named this, it was called spiritualization, I believe. I think they had a name around that early, and then it became connectedness. And so that was interesting for me to learn along my journey with this particular strength. And so either one of you could take this question, but talk a little bit about just how a strength on a psychometric assessment uncovered a part of you that's very deep, very personal, because all of our spiritual journeys are very different from each other, and how that comes through for you as you learned about this strength called connectedness.
For me, it's actually, I in the last couple of years, I have gotten closer to my relationship with God, and I think connectedness is just, it has always been there, but knowing that that's my filter in how I see the world, like it helps me also in my spiritual practice. So with this concept of surrounding, right? So I used to suffer a lot because I felt like I was not good enough, or I was not in the right place, or like, in this practice of surrendering is deeply spiritual, and is deeply connected to the theme of connectedness. When we honor that things happen for a reason, we're not fighting reality, but rather we are focusing on the opportunity. We're grateful for what's happening. So yeah, it's interesting how it's always been there, but now I'm relying more on my connectedness theme. Like before maybe I relay more on my achiever theme. So now I try to let connectedness ground me in my spiritual practice.
Nice. And I just adding to that, I've actually done Clifton Strengths a couple of times, about 8 years apart. And the first time I did it, connectedness was not in my dominant themes. In fact, I can't remember where it was, but it was definitely below 15. And then when I took it again in 2018, connectedness jumped to number 3, totally relevant to my journey from corporate management consultant into self-employment, my desire to have an impact in the world, my belief that we all have a unique place in the universe and we're meant to play a role. So my philosophy about life became clearer when I left corporate and started my own practice. And connectedness was, the move of connectedness in my theme sequence was a reflection of that. So I definitely lean into it all the time in terms of how big of an impact, similar to Claudia, how big of an impact can I make on the planet right now?
I love that for both of you. So we're going to help our listeners understand now, how is a strength that connects to us spiritually, connects to us thinking about being a part of bigger things, that no coincidences, love synchronicities, to some of the notes I took from you, including that it's Claudia's favorite. How is that a strength? So help our listeners understand how everything we just said, what is the strength of this strength? And I encourage both of you now, you can pull other strengths in. You can ask each other how you relate, but I really would love to hand you both the mic now as experts and help us to hear where this comes through for you as a strength. By the way, Christopher, hearing about that that shift in profile. That's a very interesting part of our journey, right? That how we as people, we change. Brain plasticity tells us that we can change quite a bit. And so early research with this particular psychometric assessment would say your first result was your most accurate. But I know today, with more understanding around how we adapt and change, I don't think that's the case. I actually don't teach that. I teach that your most relevant is today. This is how you are. You can get assessment bias. That's a thing. But you also can really connect to how you are. So either one of you could take this, but I really want to now dive into the strength of this particular strength.
I think it has many qualities. I think the calmness, the presence that we can bring to one another, to ourselves, when we lean into this energy of connectedness. And also the energy that comes with seeing how things can be connected. I can be in a meeting talking about so many different things, and I see connections where other people may not see. And usually I have to explain a little bit, explain it so others see the connection as well, or take time to further understand it for myself and go back and present it. So I have been able to connect things where others don't see those connections, and also to have this eagerness to connect people with each other, right? So I have a conversation here, and then I talk to someone else, and I connect people, and then amazing things happen. Like they go out to start companies or support each other in meaningful ways, or get married, like whatever it is. And it's just like this intuition, this knowing, right, that I can be the bridge between things. So so that's how it manifests for me.
That's beautiful. And you used the words earlier, faith, and you just used the word intuition. That for me is our strength. So our belief and our confidence in our own intuition and our own and living in faith that things will be all right, that things will work out, that the right people are meant to meet. I love, like, for me, the strength is the power of trusting your intuition, in part because you have the theme connectedness in your top 5. So it gives you the confidence to go, well, I am really good at intuition. I'm going to trust it.
As you learn to trust that intuition, and for both of you, because Claudia, I've heard that piece, and Christopher, you said it earlier, about connecting people to each other, the bridge builder part of the strength, and it's implied in that term, connectedness. Christopher, you said it earlier about connecting people on opposite sides of the world. Or Claudia, you said connecting people who get married. So I think we have to help people understand a little more about this aspect of this strength and the intuition piece. I heard someone once say that, strategic's described as this strength with really high intuition, and it works on a thinking level. Connectedness does similar at a heart level, where it just has a sense and a know that you should know, but you do know, and you trust your know, and then that knowing leads you to places, and you find, I'm very accurate with this. And so that space, and I'm so curious how you both describe that journey of leaning into that intuition and how it serves you and serves others.
Yeah, nice. I guess a really practical example of that has happened in the last 3 weeks. So we had partly due to my situation, we had a false start for this interview, and Claudia and I connected over Zoom in place of the podcast. And Claudia introduced me to the Loving Organization. The Loving Organization introduced me to Jackie O'Connor, who's part of Heart Place Hospital here in New Zealand. Jackie O'Connor has introduced me to a person called Alistair Gates, who is a potential partner and or therapist that I may end up doing some work with. None of that would have happened had I not slept in and missed our first go round. Right? Like that is the way connectedness works. Like it was just like a ripple effect.
I love that. Like, I didn't sleep in. I was meant to get extra rest so that I could have this relationship with Claudia that opened all these doors. That's awesome. I love it. I love it.
And when Claudia and I trust ourselves and trust our heart, those kind of ripple effect coincidences happen all the time. And they're happening in everyone's lives, but people with connectedness notice them more.
Ripple effect coincidences. Is that how you said it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I have to write that one down. That's a really great description. So friends listening, ripple effect coincidences is something that you can learn to appreciate, understand, and come to know about your friends with high connectedness. So sorry, Claudia, you go ahead. Please take it from there.
You know how we start our coaching business on a high, only to get absolutely overwhelmed by the business side of things? We're suddenly supposed to be a full-time salesperson, marketing funnel maker, email marketing expert, social media manager, customer service rep, and tech expert all in one. Yeah, overwhelm. Well, Lisa Cummings, our strengths coach friend, created a membership that gives you an insane member vault that will blow your mind. All the tools, systems, and templates to save you time and money. It's the actual assets Lisa used at Lead Through Strengths to build a successful strengths coaching business. All the assets are yours to customize and make your very own. She even gives you 2 years worth of emails you can use to serve your customers. So check it out at podcast.34strong.com, Lead Through Strengths. Again, podcast.34strong.com, Lead Through Strengths from Lisa Cummings.
I love what you said, Brandon, about like the difference between like the cognitive and the heartfelt intuition. And I just wanted to mention that I was very fortunate. Like I took a lot of jobs that were where I was like a liaison to resources. Like I worked for state government from 2007 to 2015, and I was just connecting people to resources across the state. I mean, I love that state. I mean, that job. And then like I always had this fascination of connecting people. And also I could find common ground with the people that I, with the strangers. Like I can just feel some sort of like, okay, like they're part of the human family. So, it's just like this feeling of familiarity with the strangers. And I don't have woo, but it's my connectedness, how it shows up. So, but before, I think I was very caught up in the thinking mind. So I would, when something would happen, I would be very disappointed about myself or disappointed of the situation. And what has changed for me in the last couple of years that I have grown in my spiritual practice is like, it is surrendering to it, like embracing my connectedness to say, what's happened, what's real is what's happened. So not resisting reality, but rather, okay, here we are. How do we do the best of the situation in whatever aspects? So, what happened with Christopher, a few weeks ago is something that has happened to me repeatedly. Recently, actually, I was the one late. Not because I overslept, but because I couldn't find parking in Boston. I gave myself like an hour and 40 minutes to get there. And I was there 20 minutes earlier. And I said, well, maybe I find parking in 10 minutes. It took me almost 40 minutes to find parking. I was 20 minutes late for this meeting with this bank executive. And thankfully, someone that, it was a mentor, someone that we had like a friendship perhaps or something like that, I can say. So mentorship and friendship. So it was not a big deal that I was late. But as he walked me through the building, I got to meet the president of the bank and the CEO. Because just as we were walking in, and he said this never happens because, we see them, around and I got to, introduce myself to both of them. And I gave my business card to the CEO. So I don't know if he's going to go, but, but I'm just like, and we were laughing, my mentor from the, that I went to visit, and I were laughing because, that's why I was late. So it's, it's just trusting. That's what I can say, trusting what's happening.
I appreciate that you both have such a quick and reliable and trusting way that you see those connections in events. And so I'm hearing the strength of this come through. And feel free, as I ask this next question, to take us deeper, because I really don't want to hold up the depth that you may or may not want to drive us to. But you do share Maximizer Learner with your connectedness. So you both have similar strengths that are up and down with you on this one. And now I want to open that up a little bit and just hear a bit about how connectedness and Maximizer relate. Because Maximizers are looking to upgrade, right? They're always optimizing, wanting to improve. And it almost sounds a little contradictory to connectedness, but maybe I'm wrong, because connectedness has yes, a connection to bigger things, but also just it's seeing flow, right? It's flowing with how things move. So super curious to hear either or both of you just chat a little bit with us about Maximizer with connectedness, Learner with it, just how you see those working in tandem.
Yeah, so for me, my Maximizer has an energy of constant and never-ending improvement, which is the way Gallup defines it. What I have found with connectedness is every single person I meet has the potential to improve my life. I get to decide which ones I engage with or not. And my Maximizer is the filter to decide that connection clearly happened for a reason. I need more time with that person. That person could change my life, or that person could contribute to my life, or I'm meant to contribute to their life. So the connectedness is the relationship. The Maximizer is how are we going to improve things for each other?
Beautiful. Yeah, for me, again, before I was caught up a little more in the mind, and I was, in the picky, never satisfied place with my Maximizer, reworking things. And now it's just like, I still see, I think that wanting to improve things never goes away. But, I notice it. And then, I can just let go. But I also know when I don't want to let go of something, and when I want to rework it, and when, something, I want something to be the best it can be. So I allow myself. So I think the Maximizer is like a little itch that is always there. But, having that connectedness helped me to just, let me just ground and like, this is beautiful. I'm just saying when I'm working with someone and like they're doing something and I want to like fix it or make it better, and it doesn't have to be better. It's just perfect the way it is.
That's good. So you're describing how maybe connectedness balances your Maximizer. Okay. Because Maximizer, you said an itch. Like it's something that's calling it. It's almost like a rock in our shoe, right? Like, there's something here that's I got to fix, I got to do. And Christopher, I loved your, the idea that we're constantly improving and upgrading, and we live in a level of discontent. Maximizers live in a level of discontent because the way we see the world is how it could or should be, maybe not always as it is. So we appreciate the strength in things, and then we immediately jump to, but here's how it could be better. And so I heard you, Claudia, saying your connectedness can help bring it back to peace. Is that right? Like bring
Correct.
It back to a calm. Okay, Chris, do you get that too?
Yeah, and it comes through in my own life. Like it comes through in feeling grounded in a purpose, feeling and a purpose that is going to improve my life and the life of my sons and the world around me significantly over the next decade. So I've got a 10-year mission that I'm really clear about. But what I've just realized from this conversation is that my connectedness maximizer is why I love purpose conversations with clients, because I can often see their place in the universe and the potential impact they will have on a bigger scale or richer or deeper, or so the power of my questions, I'm never offering that up, but the power of my questions in that context is how might things look bigger, or what are the connections you're seeing that lead you towards a different destiny or a different future. Those conversations come really naturally to me. It's a really easy thing, and I help people feel comfortable with it. And so that combination of constant, never-ending improvement and your place in the universe becomes what if it's a little bit bigger?
I do want to say to our listening friends, if you have a 10-year mission, you might have connectedness in your top strengths. With Chris having a defined 10-year mission and loving the purpose conversations with your clients. Like, let's get to purpose. And certainly I could see where those deeply resonate there. Okay, this is really helpful to hear both of you describe that. Now, some of the strengths that aren't there. So, Chris, you woo with connectedness. And that's fascinating to me, how the woo strength can tandem there, where Claudia, your achiever responsibility, right? So, achiever responsibility, got to be on time, got to get things done. You got an agenda happening in your head probably at all the time. Where am I supposed to be in conscientious and careful? And so that almost seems to be the counter to that, right? Like when connectedness gets too high and we're up here and we're thinking big and it's like, yeah, and I got to get work done and I got to do this and I got to make dinner and I got to pick up here and I got to go there. So that's a fascinating combination. So could I encourage both of you now? Let's bring out some variants, and you can live in the top 5 you gave me if you want to go deeper, because love to hear from both of you on just the other strengths that are showing up here.
Yeah, so my woo input in particular shows up along the lines of I have my experience and my history, and I have an archive of material and information, which is my input. And my woo is my network and the people I'm connected to, and then I have my inner 5, and I have circles of people that I think about often. And the natural game I play is who needs what. What is the best piece of information I can provide to such and such a client, or my eldest son, or the two of you, or your listeners? So how do I make the connection? Where is my connection and my connectedness in linking my archive of information and useful resources to my network, which is my woo? And whenever I'm in an audience situation, whether it's a one-on-one coaching or public speaking or facilitating, doesn't matter the situation, I'm always thinking, what's best for this audience? And the connections that Claudia described earlier around seeing patterns in a room, like seeing the way a meeting flows and knowing that I've got exactly the right piece of information, but I'm not going to share it until minute 50 because it's the thing I want everybody to walk away with. So it's that kind of thinking that goes along with connectedness, is strategically, how do I create connections for people, not just between people, but between people and information?
Beautiful. For me, I don't feel that my achiever and my responsibility are in much friction now than they used to be before. I think before I would feel like, I don't know, guilty if I was like connecting to many people and not getting done through my to-do or something like that. But now it's like, I feel like the work that I'm doing, I'm very grateful that the work that I'm doing is very meaningful. So when I'm getting things done, when I'm making promises and they're aligned with how higher purpose, with that impact that I want to have in the world. I mean, I'm involved right now in very meaningful projects, and I'm super excited that Christopher now is part of our consortium, our loving organization consortium. And we're moving and doing stuff all the time, but it's very meaningful work. So from that perspective, I feel like they are complementary. And I can sense when I'm like driving, like working too much, then, like know that I have to to do some self-care, and, but it's less conflict now than before.
Do you ever feel lonely as a coach or solopreneur? What if you had a place where you could surround yourself with like-minded coaches who truly get you, where learning, sharing, and growing together is the norm? Connect, Learn, and Share, started by Charlotte Blair, is a vibrant community of Clifton Strengths coaches from around the world. Hosted on the Circle platform, it's a place where you'll find people, processes, and events to help you grow your business, enhance your coaching and facilitation skills, and thrive in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment. Connect with coaches from diverse backgrounds and experiences. Learn through a calendar of recorded events across time zones, and share your knowledge in a community built on an abundance mindset rooted in strengths. Visit podcast.34strong.com to learn more. Again, podcast.34strong.com to learn more about the Connect, Learn, and Share community.
For our listeners, I'm curious when it was conflict. Talk to me about how, big picture, being a part of something that matters to you because achiever responsibility, when you think of probably two of the most productive strengths. I mean, discipline might be up there, but less common. So achiever responsibility, because they're so common in the world. And when, I tell hiring managers sometimes, like if you find an achiever responsibility top 5, you're probably finding a very high caliber worker in terms of what they can accomplish. And so they're very driven in my experience. So when you had to regulate it, what was that like?
So I don't think it was, at that time when I experienced a lot of burnt out, it was like I was unaware. I was just unaware of my strengths. So I used to work for the Commerce Corporation here in Rhode Island, between 2007, 2015. And just in the early years, I guess, I would find myself at the end of the day, like energized for the connections that I made in the community. People would call and I would just stop what I was doing and really send them the resources. So my job at that time was to connect small businesses with resources and opportunities statewide. So I would get just so motivated about doing that. And at the end of the day, I have to confront the fact that I hadn't done the things that I needed to get done. And then I would work late, at the house. I would work over the weekends, and then I wouldn't spend as much time with my daughter. I would be tired, So it was just like not knowing how to manage all of these energies that got in the way of my well-being. That's how it showed up for me. So when I took the assessment, actually it was in 2011 when I first took the assessment, but in 2014 was when I became a coach, and I started to understand, the self-regulation, the self-expression, and that's what brought a little more peace, I would say, to myself.
So would you say it's fair to say that connectedness helped you to regulate the achiever responsibility?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to ask you both now about peace. And peace, as you might define it, for inner peace, and how one operates in the opposite realm of anxiety or chaos. Does connectedness have a part of that for both of you? And if so, can you describe how not only it affects you, but how it can come through you to others to bring calm, to bring peace, to help bring things down to a level that are more manageable, understandable? People are in a space where they can learn, listen, and apply.
So I've been told by the people that I work with and that I have a calming presence. So I think when you are in a state of peace that people around you sense it, and also in the way that you respond to things, because I mean I still get triggered a lot. I know my triggers, but I don't get triggered as much as I did before. So, in the way that, you respond to people, in the way that we can empathize with them, I don't know, for me, I feel that peace is somehow contagious.
And I would say my piece is a work in progress. My maximizer at number one is a big driver for my life. And so that urge to continuously improve causes me to strive. I have learned, particularly since losing my wife to cancer 4 years ago, I have learned to take a step back and be kinder to myself, be gentler, and meditation helps. And I'm definitely viewed as grounding for my clients. I don't know whether that comes from a peaceful place, because they look to me for inspiration and change and positive momentum. So yeah, I can feel how connectedness can bring peace, but I'm not sure, but I think it shows up differently for everyone.
I want to ask you, as we're wrapping up our time together today, to give us a couple bits of insight about, one, where can people find you? Two, the work that you're doing and what you're a part of. You gave us a little bit of that at the start and just some of the connectedness to those, but a way that our listeners might be able to engage you. And then third, just some anything that you would like to add about connectedness and ways that our listeners can gain some more depth, understanding, clarity on this strength would be really helpful.
Cool. I can be reached in a couple of ways. Christopher-Miller.com is probably the easiest, and that's the site that explains all of my coaching offerings. And I am in the process of integrating strengths-based coaching, business development coaching, and heart-centered leadership, and merging those into an offer to mostly clients in New Zealand, but I do serve people globally. And I think heart-centered leadership in particular is very resonant for people right now. I've also launched a site called expansive.love. That's my 10-year mission. Expansive.love is built to lift love on the planet at this time, not by a little, but exponentially. So that it's interesting that Claudia and I, with connectedness in our dominant themes, we're both exploring love and heart-centered approach to life and organizations. I don't think that's an accident. I genuinely don't think that's an accident. I think the closer you get to source and faith and the heart of humanity, the more love comes out, and we all just have to follow it.
Chris, could you also tell us about your books?
Sure. So I wrote a book on either side of losing my wife to cancer called The Joy of Finding Fish. Fish stands for fulfillment, inspiration, success, and happiness. And it captures my coaching philosophy, and it also captures, because I wrote the last 5 chapters just after Fiona died, it captures my perspective on gratitude and resilience and love and grief. It's pretty raw. It's a pretty raw read, but it's had good feedback around the world. My second book is more commercial. It's called Finding Fish in a Strength-Based Practice. It applies fulfillment, inspiration, success, and happiness to running a strength-based practice, coaching and mentoring practice. And it helps people become commercially successful doing it's really a documentation of how I've done what I've done over the last 8 years. And book 3 is in process, and it's going to be called Expansive Love.
I love it. Chris, thank you. And where can we find the books?
They're on the publications page of my Christopher-Miller.com website.
Awesome. Thank you. And any last comments about connectedness that you want to give us?
Yeah, I would say it can serve you in a number of different ways. What I didn't realize when I lost Fiona was connectedness jumped in and said, everything happens for a reason. And I then, in grief, had to come up with the biggest reason I could think of as to why Fiona left me. That has been profound. And that is what has led to me investing in love and lifting love on the planet. Had I not lost Fiona, I would not be doing what I'm doing. That's connectedness.
Beautiful, Chris. Thank you. Okay, Claudia, would love to hear just where we can find you, what you're up to. I know you had a recent book release as well, and then your last comments on connectedness.
Thank you. I want to say that first that, when we think about the talent themes, it's like it's potential for success, right? Or potential to do something to the best of your ability. And I think one of the practices that have helped me to embrace my connectedness is meditation. So I started meditating a couple of years ago. After a year of meditation, I decided to become a meditation teacher. And in the practice, we learn, the primordial sound meditation practice that I do, we learned about Dharma. So the Dharma with big D and with small d. So Dharma with a small d is, how we go and do the work that energizes us and make us fulfill. But Dharma with the big D is connecting to the essence of who we really are. Beyond the stories, beyond, the condition, the limiting beliefs that we have, the conditioned mind. And when we connect, even if it's just glimpses, we connect with that, then we feel that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, and that is connectedness. So I think everyone have access to those moments of feeling part of something bigger than themselves. And for me, meditation has been a beautiful practice that has allowed me to grow in my connectedness energy. So I wrote the book, Love is the Path, after I realized, after overcoming an existential crisis and realizing that I could relate to myself differently, because I used to have a really bad self-critic and I lived with it. I didn't know other way to relate to myself. So when I was able to have a healthier relationship, or started to understand how to have a healthy relationship with myself, I became motivated to write the book. And I think that's my purpose now. Like, I want to help others to have healthy relationships with themselves. And I know that leaders in the workplace that have a healthy relationship with themselves are actually better leaders, can lead others in much, in better ways. So you can find more information about the work that I do at ina5.com or loveisthepath.org. And also I'm on LinkedIn, Claudia Cardoso, Providence, Rhode Island. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm excited to have conversations about how to be more loving and increase our capacity to create a better, more loving world for all of us.
Thank you both so much. This has been such a great conversation, and I want to acknowledge the connection from both of you with love as a source, as a guiding part of your missions, as a big part of your lives. And thank you both for joining today. This has been a very deep, as I would have expected with two people who lead with connectedness, enriching, powerful, insightful. And to our listeners, I want you to take a moment to reflect on your strengths. If you lead with connectedness in your top 5, hopefully this brought to you some depth, some understanding, some clarity. And if you know people who lead or work with people led by or lead people with connectedness, I trust that this was insightful for you. And so if this episode resonated, please do share with others in your network. We find that as more and more people are listening, we're getting such amazing feedback about this podcast. Chris and Claudia, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, appreciate you both taking the time. Chris, you get back to your Saturday morning, and Claudia, your Friday evening, and for me, mine as well. And so with that, guests and friends and listeners, we will see you next time on Coach to Coach.
That's a wrap on this episode of Coach to Coach. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're a strengths coach looking to dive deeper, join the Coach Strong community. It's where coaches like you come together to share insights, support one another, and discover partnership opportunities. Be part of the conversations that are elevating our industry. Email community@34strong.com to join today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Coach to Coach. Stay strong.